you could have a killer sales team, but if the marketing is broken, who are they going to talk to, right?
Yeah. Nobody wakes up and it's like, yeah, I'm going to buy a $15 million facility.
It doesn't really matter what the product is. It's how the company is able to position itself and what is the story that it's trying to tell.
Most of the buying decision is done before anybody talks to sales, for example. And what is the thing that's driving those buyers to actually contact your company? Well, it's the brand.
I would like to believe that at least that most companies are really looking to make an impact and not just make a buck.
Yeah.
At least I hope that's the case.
A lot of marketing leaders and marketing teams are really kind of struggling. I think communication is maybe the most effective and easiest to fix at first. So that's
how is it that we can change slowly that narrative so that marketing is really seen as something of value and not something that, let's see if I have enough money for this and I can give you a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, if that's the $1 million question, is it?
Otso, welcome to the Rosako podcast, man. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Super excited. I think this is going to be actually our first ever episode talking to somebody else from another marketing agency. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation that we can have and sort of where we can find some parallels into, well, the clients that we're trying to serve and the industry that the impact that we're trying to leave, obviously, to our Finnish clients, right? So, I've been following you kind of from a distance. Well, your content pops on my feed every single day, so it's kind of hard not to look at the content that you have. I may even remember, I think a couple of years ago, you made a post about your commitment to starting to post every single day, right? I think I remember that one. That was a long time ago. But yeah. Also, man, you have quite the experience in the field. And something that I want to sort of kick this off with is, you've spoken with over 100 marketing leaders in the past year. What would you say is the conversation that keeps repeating itself? The thing that tells you that the industry still hasn't fixed something just right yet?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I've been talking about in the, let's say, last month or so, like the main topic. And there's a couple of narratives, but I think one of the main ones, especially in the kind of verticals that we serve, which is kind of long sales cycle B2B companies, is it's really about showcasing the impact of marketing, actually showing and communicating what marketing brings to the table and how is marketing actually influencing the company's commercial goals and the bottom line. A lot of marketing leaders and marketing teams are really kind of struggling with actually showing what marketing is bringing and how it is actually impacting, and oftentimes it's because it's, especially this kind of complex long sales cycle B2B companies, it's very complex. There might be 240-day lead cycle with 200 touch points between the client and the seller and the buyer. So it's really hard to give, like, attribute it to and Google Ads click or attribute it to a LinkedIn view or whatever it is. So I think that's one of the main things. And then I think a lot of the kind of, there's like downstream challenges that come from that, which might be, for example, that the marketing team doesn't have enough resources to be able to kind of create impact, because that's kind of a downstream impact of the company not believing that marketing is actually a revenue driver rather than a cost center.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think part of the reason why those conversations sort of keep happening is there a lack of communication from us marketing agencies to the clients, for example?
I think that can be. That definitely can be. I think it's first and foremost an internal, like an in-house challenge in a lot of the companies. There's different layers to the challenge. There is just skill and knowledge kind of challenge. The marketing leaders, marketing teams might not have the understanding and know-how how to measure something and how to show that, and then they would have to rely on an external partner to help with that. And there might be internal communication challenges, not speaking the same language. That's like a
Yeah,
classic one that marketing is
yeah,
talking about, clicks and impressions and CTR and CPA and stuff, and then sales is talking about closed won deals and revenue and that. But I think that's part of the challenge. But I do think it's first and foremost a challenge within the organization rather than with the external partners.
yeah. What what do you think is a good way to actually reduce that gap? Like if we think about those submissions, I mean, we see them as well. We try to think, okay, how was it? I mean, obviously, whenever we're onboarding a new client, we can come across those questions or those challenges based on the previous experiences that the clients have had in the past. So we always think about how can we reduce that gap, not only so that our clients have a better understanding, but that overall so that we can start educating the general public and the industry itself a little bit better. I mean, what's something that you put into place to reduce that gap?
Well, I think we kind of split the impact of marketing often into these three different buckets. One is the strategic gap, so the gap between the company's business strategy and what marketing is doing. So we can mediate that by helping the marketing team, for example, like, hey, this is actually going to support your expansion goals into this market. Like you should do this in that channel and communicate it as a strategy or a tactic that supports whatever is the business goal. And then the center one, which is kind of our bread and butter at Guru, is the measurement side. So the tools and measurement and KPI frameworks and stuff like that. Like what are we actually measuring and what tools are we
Hmm.
actually using? So we might bring in something that the client hasn't ever used before. I think one kind of easy example is like share of search, for example. Quite a lot of companies are still not kind of tracking the share of search. Like how are they comparing in the search kind of competition against their direct competitors? Because that's something that you can actually quite easily communicate to the leadership, like hey, our competitor A is market leader in search, for example, with 25%, and then we are at 15%. And how does that actually develop over time? And then the third bucket is communication. I think communication is maybe the most effective and easiest to fix at first. So that's really about using the same language, having proper dashboards, having proper tools to communicate what marketing is doing. So I think it's a combination of those three, and then we of course work with our clients in many different ways depending what the type of company it is and what we are doing. But yeah, I think from those
Yeah,
three.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I think whenever it comes down to the communication and a good way to understand the data and be able to communicate it with the client also comes down to creating new patterns with them. Something that we always kind of wonder is obviously, you know, our industry sort of has sometimes a negative connotation, right? Digital marketing is sometimes the thing that it's quite overlooked. It's hard to maybe point the value to it, or it's hard to maybe for decision makers to see the true impact and the value that it brings, right? And I obviously think it's a problem perhaps of not fully understanding how everything works, whether it be from past experiences or just simply just not being fully knowledgeable, right? Um, how do you? mm, Something that I'm sort of like thinking about is okay, how can we as marketing agencies, as marketing people that know our stuff, how is it that we can change slowly that narrative so that marketing is really seen as something of value and not something that let's see if I have enough money for this and I can give you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, if that's the $1 million question, is it? It's or the $10 million or $100 million question. But yeah, it's. I guess it comes down to also um like the individual challenge of that company. So I think it's very different between, for example, B2C companies or service companies where the conversion path is very short and it's kind of immediate, and you can actually drive demand. You can actually generate actual demand using marketing, rather than in B2B where um, you might actually not be able to generate demand. Nobody wakes up and it's like, yeah, I'm going to buy a 15 million dollar facility, or I'm going to buy $2 billion worth of like marine equipment or something like that. So it's really about being there for the window when they are buying. But I think how we can kind of help with that is, of course, bringing in the tools that are available. And what I find quite often, and what we have found quite often, is companies do have tools. They have analytics. They might have a business intelligence tool. Quite often it's Power BI or something similar. So they do kind of have the tools in place. They have a CRM, a Salesforce, or a HubSpot or something like that, but they're not actually utilizing all of those capabilities to show what marketing is doing, and also to bring value into the other parts of the organization. Like, marketing has a lot of information about how the target audience is reacting to advertisement, and what is resonating, what is not resonating, and that is quite often not pushed to the sales team for them to be actually able to see what marketing is bringing, and also to talk that it's actually bringing value. So I think first and foremost, I would always look at the the current kind of technology stack and those things, and take full advantage of those, and then the communication part, being able to communicate that effectively across the organization.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. I mean, I was recently at this event by Marketing Finland. I think it's called the most important working day of the year, or something like that. And there was some pretty interesting insights. I don't know if you happened to be at that event, but I'm always sort of blown away by the elegance that Kantar, for example, is able to put data into like actual insights. And I think that's a great way for them to show the real impact of marketing, and be able to understand what are the trends that are coming, and understand what has been happening in the past as well. So I think developing those kinds of insights internally so that you can showcase to your clients is something that should actually help. But it also comes down to the language, right? Um, Depending on the industry, depending on the individual that you're talking to, it could be the case that, the entrepreneur maybe, you know, doesn't have a full scope or understanding of all the terminology, right? And then, we're coming in as marketers throwing all these acronyms and all these numbers and tools and whatnot into them. It sounds like Chinese. So one of
Yeah.
the biggest challenges, I think, is obviously figure out a way to talk in the language of our clients that they can understand, because that's the only way that they can see the value. If we can sort of come down to their level of understanding, language speaking, right? So they can understand those things. But yeah, you know, I've seen a little bit, touching a little bit on your career, or also, I mean, I've seen that you've kind of shifted from different industries. I mean, at some point you were in the tourism industry. At some point eventually you kind of went from B2C, and then you have gone to B2B. Talk to me about some of the parallels that you have seen from your experience. I mean, from the travel industry, now serving B2B companies, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I actually started my career as a marketing freelancer, and I worked with quite kind of varied number of companies. Actually, one US company for a couple of years, working in kind of the internet space in like the early 2010s. But I think the most interesting to me has been kind of this. I was a very kind of staunch, kind of strong believer in marketing can be measured fully and attributed fully. Like, this kind of thinking that was maybe more kind of prevalent in like the 2015, 16, 17, when pre-GDPR, when measurement was actually very kind of more potent than it is. And I was like, you can measure everything, and you should only kind of do the things that you can measure. And then now kind of going to the tourism, understanding the role of brand, the kind of country brand of Finland and then the brand of those kind of the area that we operated in, and now understanding the kind of parallel between brand in B2B. It's because it's very much the same. I've said this in several kind of discussions that I've become like much more kind of a brand believer. Like the brand is the most important thing, and that's the thing that is driving then ultimately. And in B2B, it's actually very true as well, because most of the buying decision is done before anybody talks to sales, for example. And what is the thing that's driving those buyers to actually contact your company? Well, it's the brand. So I think that's the most interesting parallel to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I can actually relate a lot to what you just mentioned. I mean, for me, before going into marketing, I was always into sales, right? And I was the biggest believer that without the sales, the marketing doesn't exist. But until I made the switch over to marketing, I kind of learned that it's the opposite. So you could have a killer sales team, but if the marketing is broken, who are they going to talk to, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
if you have a very good marketing strategy and a very good marketing execution, the likelihood of a kind of mediocre sales team selling, there could be something. Yeah. Obviously in sales, you obviously talk a lot about results, how much you're closing, and that's all one should care about. But definitely the branding element is perhaps one of the most important things. And I've also become sort of enamored with the concept as well, even in B2B, right? Because even it doesn't really matter what the product is. It's how the company is able to position itself and what is the story that it's trying to tell. What is it, from the solutions that it's trying to from the solutions that it's trying to give. I think that's a good way
Yeah.
to actually make an impact. And especially nowadays, I think most companies are looking to actually, or I would like to believe that at least that most companies are really looking to make an impact and not just make a
Yeah.
buck. At least I hope that's the case. Talk talk to me a little bit more about the about the travel industry. You've worked in Oulu, right? And
Yes.
you were involved in a couple of projects. Right now, something that we have been discussing a lot is what is happening in Rovaniemi, for example. There's a huge boom of
Yeah.
the for the tourism sector. Mm. As marketers, like, what do you think is our responsibility when it comes down to helping a region while helping a client, for example?
Yeah. uh, kind of flashbacks to kind of the previous career. I think it was we always kind of looked at Rovaniemi when we were, because I was working with kind of um, the kind of visit organization, so the kind of area kind of marketing. Tourism kind of board, so to speak. I think in
Yeah,
English it's tourism board quite often.
yeah,
So of course, there was the balance of helping individual companies versus kind of the broader area attract. I think it's Rovaniemi is such a different case. It's such a different case because it's like it like Rovaniemi belongs to the same group of kind of tourism destinations as like Amsterdam and Venice and kind of Barcelona and these kind of
yeah,
places where there's over tourism compared to the capacity of the area. So there's this kind of sustainable kind of angle to take also. But I work with some of the Rovaniemi kind of top destinations as well, and I think what has been interesting is that they also have the mentality that they are working towards the destination, like overall, and Lapland overall becoming the main destination. So they have this kind of very cool, I think, very cool kind of cohesion, because of course there's a lot of pie for people to share there, at least for now. So I think
yeah,
that's
for
I
now.
think that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something, obviously, that's a conversation that we have been getting involved as well. It's okay, right. How can we also ensure that, yes, while helping the clients, how can we ensure that the money stays in the region, for example? That's obviously a big topic,
Yeah,
right? A lot of the operators sort of depend a lot on online travel agents for example, right? I mean, if a lot of the
Yeah,
hotels are relying heavily on Booking.com, for example, then it means that a lot of the money is probably going to Amsterdam and not staying in Rovaniemi, right?
that's true.
That's a very big one to tackle. How do you how do you balance that? I mean, you don't have to give obviously specific or sensitive information, but I mean, what is the conversations that you kind of have internally, not internally, but I mean the conversations that you have with those clients about how can we help you so that the money stays in your pocket and it doesn't go to Amsterdam? I mean, are you also sort of helping them have a healthier balance when it comes to OTAs, for example?
Yeah. Well, we don't really currently really work with, but I can talk
Okay.
from my experience. And I was
Yeah.
working as the marketing manager for a kind of holiday destination as well. So I'm very familiar with the kind of the commission kind of logic and the kind of OTA, online travel agency logic as well. And I think it should be treated as any other distribution channel, and basically looked at the kind of net revenue per unit. And of course, the math is pretty brutal when you are paying, I think, like 18% was kind of the standard back then,
Yeah.
and it's 18% out of your profit, because that comes out of directly from the profit. So it's basically your customer acquisition cost from other channels can be pretty high. And of course, you know this because I know that Raseko is working with tourism companies quite a lot. So I think that's one thing to look at. And then for us, when I was the kind of marketing manager there, we had a strong focus of building a very strong relationship with the clients, because it's often repeat clients. At least in Oulu, Rovaniemi might be different because it's a lot of the people traveling there are. It might be a once in a lifetime kind of trip for them.
Yeah, a
So
lot of
you
like
might
bucket list travelers.
yeah, and from the Asian countries, for example, the Chinese travelers might be it's once they are coming to Finland and that's it, and they're spending the 15K or whatever they are on average spending in Finland, but at least for Oulu, it's quite often it was repeat customers. So
Mhm.
you really wanted to pull them away from the kind of Booking.com ecosystem into your own kind of ecosystem. So social media was a big thing back then, kind of getting them into the social media and kind of being a part of that. And then email, of course, email marketing was a big thing. And then, but I used to work in that industry at a time when there was much stronger kind of price parity contracts. I'm not sure how it is anymore,
Yeah,
but
it
back
has
then it
changed.
was like, yeah, because I think there
Yeah,
was some legislation around that
yeah,
has
yeah,
changed. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Now, obviously, the hotel operators have advantage if they can take care of the advantage to actually, not be kind of bullied by the OTAs. Of course, I mean that also takes
yeah,
a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of good marketing to be able to actually capture them, right? Because I mean, it's always a problem that okay, so you have the possibility to actually compete against Booking, so to speak, right? But I mean,
yeah,
do you have all of your ducks in a row? Is the foundation of your
yeah,
website where it should be? Are your marketing efforts there? Is your customer
yeah,
experience there? So obviously, there's a lot of things that they gotta that they really have to look into and develop. But
for
yeah, so
sure.
that's a little bit about the about the travel industry. Hmm. Something that it's obviously talked a lot about in our industry is, you know, how can we get out of Finland, right? I mean, obviously, digital marketing, it's a very saturated industry, right? Pretty much anywhere you go, right? I mean, there's obviously the very big companies and the smaller ones that are coming up, and then like all the ones in the middle. But what do you think are the things that actually set apart a good agency?
Big question. Yeah. Well, I think I want to think that what sets apart a good agency is the customer experience, like at the core of everything, and really, because you are right that digital marketing does have a bad rep, and it's somewhat deserved. I think,
Yeah,
like digital
yeah,
marketing agencies, at least looking at not so much Finland, like Finland also, but especially like Europe and the US and those, because it's been super competitive, and that has kind of bred this kind of a generation of these digital marketing agencies that are really in it only to profit and kind of at the expense of the customers' kind of results. So I think that's one reason. So I want to believe that kind of succeeding together and these kind of like joint wins is what sets apart. And we've always talked about, as long as I've been in marketing, we've talked about profit-based kind of profit-sharing models and these kind of those. I don't know if anybody has actually cracked it, because like we were talking about the attribution, we were talking about measuring the success. It's a very difficult nut to crack, like what was actually kind of created by marketing and what was not created by marketing. But I think those are the main things. I think customer experience is one thing. Then of course, now that everything is changing like mega fast, like with AI and everything, also that the agency is proactive and it's bringing actually kind of new stuff to the clients. Because what I see in Finland, and it's sad really, but what I see in Finland is a lot of digital marketing agencies are kind of complacent and they are just going through the motions with their clients. So they have Google advertisement clients or Meta advertisement clients or SEO clients, like €1,000 a month type of accounts where it's the meeting, the monthly report meeting, which is always retroactive, like retrospective rather, and that's it. That's kind of the extent of the relationship. And to some it works, to some companies it works, but you could get so much more if you would actually put kind of effort into the relationship and actually work together. But then again, I always think in those cases that it's also the client doesn't actually believe that marketing can impact revenue, and they're just doing it because you should be doing it.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you know what? Sometimes it also, like you said, different cases are. I mean, each case is kind of different, but the overall, it really comes down to the customer experience that you give them. You know, I a lot of my background it's in hospitality actually, but I like to make the connection of hospitality to customer experience. But I mean, like how good are you building those relationships, right? Are you ensuring that in every single meeting everything is fully understood? Are expectations set clear? Are you not setting false expectations? That's the other thing as well, right? I mean, because I mean, obviously, I'm in the sales part as well. The sales part of the agencies can always be very, very seductive, to put it that way, right? So, yeah, I mean, it really comes down to setting very clear expectations, and I think also educating the clients as well. That's something that I've seen definitely is sometimes just the lack of understanding of what has been going on under the machine with previous agents, for example. I'm not going to say any names, but we've been in meetings where we're looking at the Google Ads, for example, and they say, well, we've never really had problems with Google Ads. Quite the contrary, we have been very low cost per click. I mean, we have been getting leads like crazy, and then okay, let's take a look at under the machine, and it turns out that all the campaigns were on branded terms. It's like, well, of course,
Yeah,
they already
yeah,
know you. You're just kind of like pushing them along a little bit more. So I think like those kinds of things, and obviously because of those things that happen, it's what kind of sets a bad reputation onto the industry. So we kind of
yeah,
have, I kind of see it as we have two responsibilities. Obviously, one of them is, I mean, sort of convince the client once again why marketing is important and educate them and then also show them results. So obviously part of the job is sort of taking the back position that I have to give you the bad news that the things that were done in the past were not maybe the best. But we believe that this method is actually going to give you results, and not so much to give you instant results, but how can we fix the foundation so that the longevity of your business has a good potential.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also like one thing that I noticed that I think in a lot of the cases where it has been this kind of take Google Ads. I think Google Ads is the kind of prime suspect quite often, where it's this kind of very complacent, where you're kind of going through the motions kind of service. And I think the agencies also, and the individuals, the kind of consultants in those agencies, they know that it's not working. But then what I think what makes a good agency, what makes an agency that sets itself apart from the competition, is being able to say, hey, this doesn't work for your company. Like this is not the correct way to do this. Like we've done this, we've kind of tested different angles. Like maybe you should, and we try to be, and I try to be that kind of a person where we go to the client like, hey, it doesn't make sense. You should invest that, 6,000 a month, 8,000 a month, 10,000 a month, whatever they're spending. You should invest that into LinkedIn. You should invest that into making a podcast. Well, whatever is the thing that we believe would bring them the result. And sometimes it's something that we can offer, and sometimes it's something that we can't offer. But especially with Finland, because it's like market is like that big, you create kind of long-lasting impressions that you are on their side and you are kind of trying to kind of forward their business. And of course, I'm not the owner. It's not my money. I'm not selling for myself. So it's a little bit easier maybe for me to speak. But I think that's how I want to do business. And
Yeah.
quite often and I do sales for us as well, because I'm the head of growth. So I run our marketing and sales operations. I say in our sales meetings quite often that I don't think we offer the things that you need. Like I would recommend somebody else. Like I would say that, hey, you should go to this agency that does,
Mhm.
this, and this, because that fits your current needs better. And the funny thing is that then they want to buy from us at some point. Like then they come back like, hey, could we actually do that thing that you do, and could we try that? So it's sometimes it's, and because you work in sales,
Yeah.
it's sometimes
Yeah.
it's a little counterintuitive also.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that. Like literally last month, I had somebody reach out to me and asking me about a particular agency, and I thought, yeah, I mean, go. I mean, they're a bit cheaper than we are. And they were like, I don't know. Let's book a meeting. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like I mean,
Yeah,
like you give him your honest opinion about that particular agency, and in this particular case, like it was honestly positive. I mean, I knew that their business maybe the budget maybe wasn't there, so I thought, okay, I mean, that agency could fit actually to your budget, right? I mean, talk to them. They are a little bit cheaper. I mean, obviously. So obviously, with the price also comes the results as well. I mean, we all know that, right? And well, it turned out that we booked the meeting together, and the rest is history. But yeah, it's always funny how that works. But I think that also talks a lot about the agency as well, and the people involved in those agencies. Even though we're in the same sort of business line, like it doesn't mean that we all have to be against each other, right? At the end of the day, most of our clients are Finnish. Most of your clients are probably Finnish. I think it's in the best interest of both of us that all of our clients succeed, because that means growth for the country.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like also super happy that we work a lot with export companies. And also one of my favorite topics is that tourism is export. It's an export business because it's outside money coming into Finland. So that's also why. But I do really enjoy personally working with export businesses because of that kind of the macroeconomic, or whatever you want to call it, that we are bringing in kind of money, helping the kind of uh, the balance of the Finnish economy, because it's not great. We know that it's not great. So it's great to see like companies succeeding and getting kind of um, money flowing in from outside of Finland as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, looking at it a little bit from the perspective, let's say, of the role that you have, talking about the sales within the marketing industry, what do you think in general it's sort of lacking in with Finnish agencies when it comes to the sales of their product?
That's an interesting question. I could maybe talk more about the marketing side. Like I think sales. Hmm. Let's talk about both maybe. I think from marketing side, um, I think it's the cobbler's son doesn't have shoes or whatever the kind of kind of goes in English. The saying goes in English, but basically there has been quite few marketing agencies historically that I think have
Yeah,
done a great job at their
yeah.
own marketing. And to name names, or not to name names, but now I see that last maybe year, maybe 2 years, because it's been more tough of a market. Inbound hasn't been so high for most agencies.
Mm,
I think they have kind of gotten a lot more active in their own marketing as well, and that's to some extent true for Guru as well. Um, from the sales side, I have to say that what I hear is not great
mhm.
in terms of like how sales is handled, like how discovery meetings are handled, and how sales people are preparing for those. And that might be just my own little sample size, but what I hear from my meetings is that quite often the people don't actually have not kind of looked into the company that they are going to have the meeting with, or tried to understand what the business actually is to be able to serve. So they come with the solution or whatever. It's the age old saying that if all you have is a hammer, every problem is a nail. So it's that's kind of an approach that you are selling GEO or you're selling Google ads or Meta ads, and that's going to be the solution for everything. And then you just kind of come in with that solution, like here, like this will solve your problems. I don't actually understand what your problem is. I don't understand the business, but this is the solution. There's probably some great ones out there like that are
Yeah.
doing a great job. That's just it just doesn't kind of show up on my radar.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, and I think some of those things, like you said, the hammer example, it's a perfect example if we think about not everybody, but if we think about AI, for example. My LinkedIn is filled with AI solutions. Obviously, we target a lot the hotel and travel industry, so that's where I move around in LinkedIn, and all I
Yeah,
see is AI solutions to book. I mean, to kill OTAs, for example, and
yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's that's another one. But I do believe I mean, I'm a high believer and obviously a high user of AI tools to develop tools in house so that we can obviously also, cut costs, for example, right? I think now there's not a better time where companies can, and I don't just mean marketing agencies, but companies in general to take a lot more of the power of how the data is being used and how their data is being handled by actually generating tools that you can use in-house, right? It kind of puts the SaaS companies' services at some risk. I mean, it's too early to tell. We'll see what happens down the line. But something that I've seen from the content that you put out there is obviously, Claude Code came out and it's everywhere, and there has been amazing examples of how things can be sort of unified for a company, and also and then there's obviously the rest of things. But talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, you're quite a fan of coding and developing your own tools. How have you seen that just in such a short period of time change the efficiency of your own work?
yeah, yeah. Oh, it's an amazing topic. I think AI in general, and it's been like gradual and then all at once, and then again gradual and then all at once. For me personally, I think the big shift was like maybe 6 months ago when I got really into the kind of code interface based building my own systems, moving away from stuff like N8N, kind of these no code automations, moving into these kind of full code systems. It's making things so much more efficient and quick. It's kind of two things. It's one is the obvious things like creating reports and handling, and in sales, like doing the one reason why I've been able to do so good kind of discovery meetings is because I have a ton of agents running analysis and running kind of stuff, kind of creating the brief for me, so I can really kind of ingest a very kind of condensed amount of information. Um, so it's the saving of time and increasing of quality through those kind of systems. But then again, it's being able to do stuff that were not possible to do before for
Mm,
companies. And this is actually very interesting, I think, for agencies, because what I see is that the kind of boundaries of what different agencies are doing, those are getting very blurry. Like creative agencies are getting into stuff around analytics and stuff around digital marketing, and then digital marketing companies are getting into the creative side or the kind of content side of things, because AI and kind of AI systems allows us to kind of move into there without having like super deep domain knowledge on those topics. So I think that's a very interesting. I could talk an hour about all the stuff. I think I counted it maybe last week or 2 weeks ago that altogether in any given week I run like 15 to 20 different agents and then sub agents on those on different things like SEO, content, sales, kind of outreach, discovery, follow ups, calendar management, task management, kind of all kinds of things. So it's building on top of stuff, and it's kind of keeps kind of adding and adding and adding. But I'm working way more than I was before.
yeah.
Like that's also the kind of one thing I posted a couple of days ago, is that I don't know a single person who has started working deeply with AI that is actually working less, because you get addicted to you get addicted to the efficiency and being able to build stuff and kind of doing things that you were not kind of wasn't possible for you to do before.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's the same case with me. I think it has just, I mean, obviously in the past, a lot of the, let's say, development that one wanted to have was sort of being held back by the knowledge and the technical skills to deploying such systems, right? But now, since it's a little bit easier, and you're able to actually create stuff, and it's obviously, it's exciting. It's exciting that you're, sitting at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and you're developing a cool lab that is going to be able to brief you on the things that you need to check out in the morning, right? And but you know what? But it doesn't feel like work. Does it feel like work to you?
Not so much. No, not so much. I my evening routines for months now have been, I have my treadmill. It's right there. You can't see it on the
Yeah.
screen, but I have my treadmill, and I put on some kind of good tunes, and I walk on my treadmill, and then I speak. I don't write anymore. That's one thing. Like that has been a big efficiency, like big kind of increase for me, is that I don't really write anywhere anymore, like Slack messages or emails and everything. I use like transcription software to be able to speak everything. So I'm just speaking with the agent or with the AI systems, and I'm just having like kind of building it while I'm kind of blasting tunes and walking on the treadmill, so that it really doesn't feel like work most of the
Yeah, it
time.
doesn't. Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. What do you think it's the upside?
The upside of AI, or the downside
Yeah.
or upside.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry, the downside of it. I
yeah,
mean,
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Work is becoming super intense, like way more intense, like it's compacting. So I was just talking about this, I think, earlier today with a colleague, is that I'm now at the point where whenever I'm working, I might have four different Claude kind of agent windows running at the same time, and I'm waiting for them to kind of finish up, and then I'm giving instructions, and the next one starts to go, and I'm hopping between contexts. So I might go like, LinkedIn thought leadership agent is working here. I give it little instructions and context, and then I hop into my SEO thing, and then I hop into my kind of Google search thing, and it's draining on the brain. It's like actually very draining on the brain. Like after 2-3 hours, you are like pretty foggy, foggy on the brain. So I think that is an actual downside, and I think that has to change for myself and for others, how we work. And I'm trying to be like very kind of intentional about changing that. So I go outside. Like today, I went for a 30-minute walk during the day, and I try to break it down into this a little bit kind of manageable manageable time slots, and it's actually working kind of in my favor because, well, you know that with the AI tools you have a usage kind of quota, and you get to that point. So I often go like I work until my quota stops, and then I have to wait for an hour before I can continue. Um, but there's definitely downside, and I'm not even going to touch all the kind of macro kind of social economical kind of
Yeah, of
problems
course.
that arise from that. So I think that's a different conversation to be had.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. What do you think? What about for the clients? I mean, for our own industry, obviously, it has never been easier now to produce content at mass, right? Obviously, nowadays, if we think about the about Google, for example, I mean, now we have to create content for two. So one's for the people, and the other one's for the machines, right? But something that I think is probably, I mean, there's conversations already, obviously, but like, what is going to happen to the whole content itself if there's just so much going at the same time continuously? Like, what do you think is going to be, let's say, 5 years from now, the edge that a marketing agency can actually have on the industry, for example?
Yeah. Are you asking like more in terms of the agency itself, how it can market and sell itself, or the kind of what we are kind of offering? I think those are kind of two different kind
The
of
first question,
avenues to take.
yeah, the first avenue, like, what does it
Yeah.
mean for, I mean, yeah, for us?
Yeah. Well, I'm a super big believer in thought leadership and kind of personal brands at the forefront, and that's really kind of the go-to market that Guru has been having now is kind of putting the people at the center, because it's actually kind of zigging while others are zagging. So if people are kind of producing a lot of kind of content, the kind of bulk, like this kind of programmatic SEO, that is a big thing kind of right now, doing stuff like that, or mass producing meta ads and stuff like that. But if you put a person out there and the person is very, very kind of genuine and kind of creating that kind of human trust. As an example from my own sales meetings, it's quite often that I hear that the only reason why they agreed to the meeting was because they knew me as a person from my content and those. So I think that can be an edge. Of course, it might be an edge for now. We have different tools, we have different solutions, we have ghostwriting services popping here and there and the other, which are kind of making that as a machine, or making that as like a kind of conveyor belt content as well. So hard to know.
Yeah, it is. It is. And nowadays, I mean, it's very hard to kind of spot like real legitimate content. I mean, I think we have all been guilty at some point of using AI to produce content, right? And when it was first coming out and whatnot, like for example, I've even seen it now on like Netflix narrations in documentaries. Like I was just watching last week in I think it was the Ronda Rousey versus this other woman that were gonna fight in the UFC, and the narration just stunk. Like AI,
Okay.
yeah, like it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of the it's not this, it's that, it's not this, it's that. I was just like, come
Yeah.
on now, Netflix. You
Yeah.
have a bunch of money, you have a bunch of resources, you can do better. But yeah,
Yeah.
also, man, we have been going up and down in many different directions. It has been a lot of fun. Obviously, picking your brain on some of these topics. What do you think it's something that that us marketing agencies should be focusing highly to succeed in the next coming years?
I think being agile, I think that's really the thing. Being able to pivot, being able to be agile, because like nobody would have suspected that ChatGPT and kind of these AI searches will kind of disrupt the way we kind of look for information, for example. So that was kind of, I think, maybe somebody did, of course, but at least for me, it was very kind of thing that surprised me, and then that kind of created a big opportunity for businesses or for agencies to actually serve that kind of need. So I think those are going to keep popping up now, like different ways. Whenever now it's ChatGPT ads is the next thing that like we are, for example, kind of now looking into for our clients, because it's now expanding into I think 6 different markets like last week or this week. So these kind of things and being able to kind of hop onto those. Maybe even more important is the people in the agency, like making sure that they like the well-being is a big thing, because it's very draining. The work is becoming more draining. There is constant pressure to kind of learn and adapt and kind of keep on track of all of the things. So kind of that part, and that the people are going to be capable to kind of take advantage of those opportunities and kind of do those. So I think those are maybe the kind of core things. It's really around AI, in my opinion, because I think that's the biggest change in our industry, maybe forever, like since forever, at least since like the kind of internet and digital marketing became like a separate thing from traditional.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you, man. Also, where can people keep up with you?
LinkedIn is the best place. LinkedIn is the best place. So I post seven
Every
times a
day.
week. Well, I try post 7 times a week. So that's the best place. And feel free to challenge me. I'm a debater person at heart, so I'm always up for like a good kind of back and forth, because I try to put out strong opinions and kind of put my opinions kind of clearly. So it's always fun to have that kind of interaction, because I think when two smart minds kind of push against each other, you create much better thinking in the long run.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Man, it has been an absolute pleasure having you today, man. I really hope the listeners can find some insights and some inspiration, and make sure you get in contact with Otso if you want to spar a little bit on LinkedIn or even in real life, maybe.
Exactly.
All right, then. Thank you, Otso.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was super fun.
Cool. Thank you. Bye, everybody.